What was supposed to be a quiet weekend for a young married couple quickly goes out of control when an unexpected guest from the wife's past walks through their door, and she brings with her very dark secrets.
Hi, I'm so early. Sorry, you must be... No.
Unable to resist her temptations, the couple fall for her, but they may have to forever live with the consequences of their actions, or maybe not. In the peaceful and ordinary suburbs of New York, Noel and his friend Pete are two married men who are also neighbors and spend one sunny afternoon hosting a barbecue. Noel's wife, Audra, is inside preparing food with Pete's wife, Marnie. And as they share a small conversation inside the house, the men are outside as Pete confides in Noel about his crumbling marriage. He tells his friend that he feels unappreciated, blaming the presence of their children for the emotional distance between him and Marnie. What shocks Noel even more is Pete's disturbing revelation that he has resorted to beating off on Marnie while she sleeps, as he is convinced that it is a way to preserve their marriage without crossing the line into infidelity. Meanwhile, Audra reveals her own secret to Marnie that years ago, she had been pregnant as a teenager but that she miscarried, and that this was something she had never shared with Noel. Now, she and Noel are under pressure to conceive, and both of them are even questioning their own fertility abilities. Later that evening, after sharing another moment as husband and wife, Noel suggests that they babysit Pete and Marnie's children so the couple can reconnect. When she hears this, Audra is suspicious of his suggestion, and the two eventually acknowledge the depth of Pete and Marnie's marital problems. About that time, across the street, Pete continues his disturbing routine of watching movies late into the night and then exploring his wife's body while she sleeps. Days later, Audra receives an unexpected message from Holly, a college roommate she hasn't spoken to in over a decade. She initially has mixed feelings about her, but then Noel encourages her to meet up, believing it's nothing more than reconnecting with an old friend. What Noel doesn't know is that Audra and Holly had shared a complicated history in the past. The next day, while Noel was jogging with Pete, he admits that he cannot stop his troubling behavior, as he tries to excuse it as a healthier alternative to outright cheating. But Noel was more troubled and focused on his own struggles with Audra. And the pressure of starting a family eventually drove him to suggest a weekend getaway with the hope that it would ease the tension between them. Although Audra agrees to this, she surprises Noel by telling him that she's decided to invite Holly over for a visit. That night, however, she wakes Noel with a confession as she shares that her past with Holly wasn't simply friendship. During college, they were involved in an intimate relationship, one that ended abruptly but had left lingering feelings between them that is still unresolved. Now, with Holly coming back to her life, their past threatens to break the fragile relationship in their marriage. Noel is stunned after hearing Audra's secret, and to him, Audra has never seemed adventurous, so the revelation leaves him restless. That night, he struggles to sleep as he continues to replay the confession in his mind over and over. The following morning, during his routine run with Pete, he shares the shocking news. However, Pete finds the story intriguing, while Noel remains in disbelief, unable to imagine his conservative wife involved in such an experience. So, Pete encourages him to take advantage of this new information, suggesting that Noel push Audra beyond her comfort zone and experiment more before they become parents. Meanwhile, Audra confides in Marnie about what she revealed to Noel, unaware that Pete has already shared the secret with his wife. Later on, the two couples gather for dinner, and as tension lingers, Audra eventually blurts out that she knows everyone is aware of her past with Holly. Though embarrassed, she tries to keep the evening from becoming uncomfortable for them. When the men later talked outside, Noel admits to Pete that he still struggles to picture Audra with Holly, prompting Pete to float another bold idea as he suggests that they invite Holly into their marriage for a threesome. Although Noel quickly resists this, Pete insists that he should at least consider it. When the day of Holly's arrival finally comes, Audra is nervous and unsettled, and she takes a stress bath while Noel answers the door. Holly had shown up earlier than expected, and her presence immediately overwhelmed him. With her playful charm and mysterious aura, she captures his attention instantly as she asks to take a shower and rest. So, Noel helps her settle into the guest room, but the weight of her return sends Audra into a frenzy as she prepares to reunite with someone she hasn't seen in years. But as Holly rests from her journey, Audra grows unusually excited and tries to channel her nervous energy to Noel. She becomes more passionate than usual, leaving Noel conflicted as he reminds her that Holly is just a room away. Eventually, they compose themselves and begin preparing for dinner. When Audra finally wakes Holly, their first meeting in years is filled with nostalgia. For Audra, memories of their past come rushing back, while Holly warmly embraces her, seemingly unaffected by the tension. Later on, the three sit down for dinner, and Noel cannot take his eyes off Holly, as he struggles to hide his curiosity. Their conversation stalled for a while, and Noel, unable to restrain himself, blurts out that he knows about Audra and Holly's college fling. Although Holly reacts casually, Audra is mortified and her face flushed with embarrassment. The dinner she hoped would rekindle old connections instead becomes a reminder of the fragile balance in her marriage, and she is left questioning how much longer she can hold it together. However, the conversation takes another turn when Holly begins sharing her latest venture as she reveals that she has combined her passion for baking with her fondness for cannabis, now running a business that produces infused edibles. She brings samples for everyone to try, but while Noel is curious, Audra hesitates. So she decides to distract herself by excusing herself to wash dishes in the kitchen, leaving Noel alone with Holly. As he starts to grow restless, Noel steps outside to call Pete as their earlier conversations replay in his mind, and for the first time, he considers the possibility of inviting Holly into his marriage. When he returns inside, he finds Holly dancing playfully around the living room. Building up his courage, Noel shares his thoughts with her with a nervous but determined face as he asks if she would be open to joining him and Audra in something intimate. To his relief, Holly responds positively, and even encourages him to wait for the right moment to bring it up with his wife. Just then, Audra walks back in and becomes curious about their conversation. When she asks Noel, he panics and lies, claiming he was helping Holly sort out tax papers for her company. Amused by his lie, Holly immediately exposes the details and informs her friend about Noel's interest in a three-way arrangement. Audra is stunned once more by the news as she starts to feel betrayed that her husband discussed something so personal with Holly before her. But then Noel argues that it could be their chance to be adventurous before starting a family, but Audra firmly rejects the idea and insists that Noel inform Holly directly about their decision. Feeling frustrated, Noel confronts Holly for breaking their plan, but she defends herself, saying she could not just sit by and watch while Noel lied to Audra. So they agree that Audra must have the final say. When Audra returns, she is still visibly upset, and Holly decides to address the tension head-on. She admits that it is clear they are all attracted to one another and openly states her willingness to share an intimate experience with both Noel and Audra. While calling Audra her best friend, Holly apologizes for the past and for not being honest sooner. Though caught off guard, Audra softens slightly and even agrees to try Holly's cookies. This shifts the atmosphere, and the nervous energy gives way to more open discussions between them. Much later that evening, they gather by the backyard pool and Holly, always the bold one, strips down and dives in first as she dares the others to join. Noel follows, and though hesitant, Audra is eventually tossed in by her husband. And their night continues with playful energy, drinks, and more edibles, before returning indoors. All of a sudden, Holly takes the lead as she rekindles her connection with Audra while Noel watches, captivated as his wife's college past unfolds before him. But just as the evening is about reaching its peak, a loud and urgent knock interrupts them. Noel rushes to the door, only to find Marnie standing outside in tears. She cries out that she has caught Pete in the act, once again violating her body while she slept. The chaos continues when Pete arrives shortly after Marnie's outburst. In the living room, tensions run high as Marnie breaks down, unable to process what has happened. So, Noel takes Pete outside for a private talk while Audra and Holly stay behind to comfort Marnie. When Noel asks why he hasn't stopped his disturbing behaviors, Pete tells his friend that it is because he feels powerless and unappreciated in his marriage. And when they returned inside, he further tells his wife that his behavior was not out of malice, but desperation, as he has struggled to find his place in the relationship. Marnie, who is still devastated, insists that she has carried the weight of their marriage alone, providing stability while it feels that Pete has withdrawn himself. What hurts her most is his refusal to communicate his struggles openly. Afraid of losing her, Pete begs for understanding, but Marnie storms out in anger, leaving him scrambling to follow. After they leave, the atmosphere inside Noel's home is heavy and Audra feels the night has been ruined. But Holly has a different perspective. To her, hardship is a part of life, and compared to the tragedies that occur daily, a broken marriage should not strip them of the chance to enjoy life themselves. She insists that they focus on the present and embrace the moments of happiness still within their reach. Her words strike a chord between the couple, and soon, the tension eases as Noel, Audra, and Holly pick up where they left off. The passion resurfaces, and the three share an intimate encounter as they push boundaries that none of them imagined earlier that day. For Audra and Noel, it feels like a new stage in their marriage, a discovery that temporarily unites them even more closely. However, the aftermath is far from simple. During their quiet moments together, Holly reveals that her feelings for Audra never truly faded. She confesses she is still in love with her, and this admission catches Noel off guard, turning what seemed like a night of freedom into something more complicated. Audra then reveals the truth she had long withheld. In college, she did not see Holly as just a friend, but as someone she loved deeply. For her, it was never a platonic kind of love, rather it was romantic. With these confessions, Noel struggles to process the information, and what began as an adventurous experiment now feels like a betrayal of trust. He tells Audra that she should have been honest before things escalated. However, Audra regretfully admits her mistake and clarifies that Holly's feelings were not fully reciprocated at the time, leaving Holly to believe she had been in a one-sided relationship. In the end, Holly is filled with regret as she apologizes for complicating matters between the couple further. The night ends quietly, with Audra and Noel turning their focus back to their future together, and they remind themselves of their dream of starting a family, realizing that their struggles have not been due to fertility, but timing. By morning, Holly prepares breakfast before leaving as she promises to stay in touch. And in the months that follow, Pete and Marnie went for counseling as they slowly started to rebuild their relationship. Meanwhile, Audra discovers she is pregnant, and Noel prepares for fatherhood. And in the end, we discover that even in ordinary lives, routines can break and secrets can be exposed, but through the struggles, love often finds a way to endure. And that's the story of the movie, Holly Slept Over. Do you think you can ever consider breaking your marital vows and involve someone else in your marriage? Tell us what you think about this movie in the comments section, and don't forget to like and share this video. Until our next recap, stay safe.